Roman harbors, built underwater 2,000 years ago, are still standing. Modern marine concrete, in the same seawater, needs repairs every 50 to 100 years. That's not folklore, that's measured fact. And it's stranger than the legend. You've probably heard the claim. Roman concrete was some kind of lost super material, a secret recipe, buried with the empire, better than anything we build with today. Here's the problem. That's not quite true, but it's not quite false either. Exhibit A, a dome, roughly 43 meters across. No steel inside it, no post-tensioning, no reinforcement of any kind. And it's still standing, roughly 19 centuries after it was built. So what does that actually prove about Roman concrete? And, just as important, what does it not prove? This episode puts that claim up against the actual science across Rome, the Italian coast, and the harbors of the Mediterranean. So where does Roman concrete genuinely outperform the modern version? And where does the legend just outrun the evidence? They didn't pour this stuff as a liquid. It went in dryish, in courses, lime mortar, volcanic ash, and rubble, packed by hand into wooden forms, or lowered into the sea in wooden crates called caissons. The key ingredient was a volcanic ash from the Bay of Naples. Mix that ash with slaked lime and water, and you get a mineral glue that binds the whole mass together. That ash moved by ship to building sites right across the Mediterranean, on the same trade routes carrying grain from Egypt and marble from the east, and the people mixing and packing it in harbors and quarries, in the heat. Some of them were enslaved. That's not a footnote to the construction system. It's one of its load-bearing elements. Picture a work gang at Bay A, right on the water. Timber caissons lowered into the shallows. Their hands are grey, with lime and ash slurry, shoveled in from the fields just inland. They're packing the forms with rubble and mortar below the tide line, racing the clock between tides to get the mix set before the sea reclaims the space. The workers know the tide. What they're building into the stone, without naming it, without intending it, the sea will spend 2,000 years revealing. As seawater slowly worked its way through the curing mix, it reacted with elements in the volcanic ash. That reaction grew new, crystals inside the concrete's tiny cracks and gaps. And where a crack had opened up, instead of widening, the crystal growth filled it back in. So instead of slowly falling apart over the centuries, in these specific marine conditions, the concrete was actually getting stronger. On land, something similar happens, but differently. Analysis of Roman samples from Pompeii and elsewhere shows that builders sometimes mixed dry quicklime straight into the volcanic ash. That reaction runs hot, and it leaves little white flecks of lime trapped in the finished concrete. For a long time, those flecks were read as sloppy mixing, a sign the builders hadn't blended things properly. Now we think they're actually the reason this concrete can heal itself. When water gets into a crack, those flecks dissolve and reform as that same mineral glue, sealing the crack from the inside. Modern marine concrete, without special additives, doesn't age the same way. Chloride and sulfate in seawater attack the cement itself. And if there's steel reinforcement inside, it corrodes, expands, and cracks the concrete from the inside out. Out in the ocean, that usually means repairs within 50 to 100 years. Compare that to specific Roman harbor blocks that are still standing after roughly 2,000 years of seawater, and still show that same mineral infilling happening. That gap is real, but it's narrow. It only holds where you've got that specific ash chemistry and constant seawater contact together. The same ash, used dry and inland, doesn't get you any of this. And the Pantheon's dome works on a completely different mechanism. Its durability isn't the seawater story at all. Mix those two stories together, and you lose exactly what made this achievement so precise. But here's what's not anywhere in the record. The popular version, one secret recipe, guarded and lost when Rome fell. Go back to that gang at Bay A. They packed a mole that the sea would spend 2,000 years reinforcing on its own. They had no idea about the crystal chemistry. They just knew the ash and the tide, and the sea did the rest after they'd gone home. Roman concrete did not beat modern concrete everywhere. It beat it in the sea, using chemistry the Romans exploited without ever naming it. What was lost was not a recipe. It was the volcanic ash supply chain, the Mediterranean shipping network that moved it, and the organized labor, free and enslaved, that put it to work at scale. And when those pieces stopped supporting each other, the whole technique just wasn't worth doing anymore. The Pantheon's dome is the landside proof of what ash, lime, and skilled labor could do when the whole system was working. Roman concrete wasn't some universal miracle material. It was a material perfectly matched to specific conditions, built by a whole system, and outlasted by the chemistry of the exact place it came from. What made it last was a specific local ash, specific conditions, underwater or in that dome, and a supply chain and workforce that could deliver both at scale. When all of that lined up, the concrete lasted. Once the system fell apart, there was no recipe that could bring it back.